Welcome to the Porsche Club Insider, your one stop for all things Porsche and PCA. Here's your host, Vu Gwyn, and the Insider crew.
Well, there's no Vu Gwyn today. Vu is at SEMA in Las Vegas. He'll be back next week to brief us on everything he saw. With me, though, is Damon Lowney, of course, our digital media coordinator, and Steve Wood, a newbie to the podcast. He's the Chesapeake Region President. And I brought Steve on because we went up to the Porsche driving experience, which we'll talk about. So as we're recording this, we were supposed to do a 1 mile review this morning, and because I think there was a 10% chance of rain, Bob Miller texted us and said, "Can we move it to the afternoon?" And I can't blame him because we're going to do his 964 RS Club Sport. And as I was getting ready this morning, I looked at our temperature in Maryland. It was like 38 degrees, and I thought, I wonder what kind of tires this car has, because I doubt if it has all-season tires on it, and I'm going to be driving it in maybe 40-degree weather. So, I didn't mind moving it to the afternoon.
Yeah, it was a little bit rainy as well.
Yeah, well, I can't blame Bob. I was the same way with my 914 yesterday. That Bogdan wanted me to bring it in on Monday to take photographs because it's orange for Halloween, and I'm glad I didn't, because I looked at it around 4 o'clock when we left the office, and it was pouring down rain and windy, and I said that the anxiety I would have had driving that home if somebody rear-ending it or hitting it.
Oh, and the branches were flying all over the place.
Yeah, no, I don't think that car's gotten wet in about 3 years.
Yeah,
including washing. I just wipe it down and.
So, Damon, you didn't force a drawing of the straws to drive the Club Sport?
No, on this one, oftentimes, funny enough, with the cars that Bob Miller lends us for these drives, a lot of times I feel like they're many specialties. You know, they're a little bit older. I'm a little bit less knowledgeable on them. And oftentimes he's had the experience of driving a similar car. So with
from
Bob
a
Miller
field perspective.
Exactly. So I'm learning. I'm driving a lot more, especially the old cars. I remember when I drove that Speedster, and God, I can't remember the last time I drove a carbureted car, and I couldn't start it. And then, you know, the owner, you can't hear him off camera, was you got to push the gas a little bit. And so I pushed the gas, and of course the comment section was just like,
lighting
he doesn't know how to drive. But anyway,
I know how to drive. I just don't know how to start stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone else starts the cars for me.
Exactly, right? Yeah, something like that.
At Ransford, one of my best memories this year was the Porsche calling me up saying, "How do you start a 935?" And I thought, if it's a stock 935, it's really not that hard because it's still mechanical fuel injection.
Yep.
It's shouldn't be too hard, so I try and explain over the phone, but that wasn't their problem. The problem was that the car had a dead battery. Well, first of all, it had all the cutoff switches turned off, so it had no power. They kept on trying to figure out why it had no power, so when I explained that there's cutoff switches, so I went over there, and then we realized their battery was dead. But 935, as exotic as it is, it's still a basic 911.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with how we always do with what we did last week. So Steve and I, we got invited from Porsche Vogues Mills to go to New Jersey Motorsports Park and test drive a bunch of Porsches, basically. And so when the service manager asked me at an event would I be interested in doing that, asked several of us, we all jumped at it, and it turned out to be a beautiful day. I wrote an article for this on eBrake detailing what this is, but basically it's free. It's a half-day session. It's not a driver's ed. It's not competitive. It's really to show people. They used to call them conquest events because they were trying to convert people who were looking not just at Porsche, but maybe Mercedes or a Corvette or something comparable. And so this would convince them to go with the Porsche brand. And talking with Porsche, they no longer track how many conversions they have. So a lot of times it's used as either for a current customer or maybe a CPO customer to say, hey, this is what the new ones are like. Either way, we got there around noon. We had an afternoon session. They had a nice catered lunch available to everyone, which we took advantage of. And from there, the clubhouse at New Jersey Motorsports Park, it's a beautiful facility that isn't too old, and it's 2 racetracks in one. And I've been lucky enough to club race at both circuits. It's really a blast, and we did it at the Lightning course, which is a little bit smaller, which is great for events like this because you get to learn the track much easier. You don't have a bunch of turns. You ever been there, Eamon?
No, not at the Lightning course. And which course? It was a Summit, correct?
No, this is up in New Jersey.
New Jersey, you said. Yeah. No, I've been there for the what was it, Radwood? Way back in the day.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Yep. Yeah, so in Radwood, we were at that. We were here at Lightning. That's where we were set up.
Gotcha. Yeah. Then I've been there, just not on the track itself.
With Radwood, they were also doing. I was telling somebody they did was it 12 hours or 24 hours of lemons. All I remember was they had 100 and maybe 20 cars on the track, and the tail almost reached the head in the pace lap. It was only looked like maybe 100 yards between the front and back. So when the race started, it was a continuous run of cars, and I think within the first hour, it seemed like 20% were already out of the race. But for us, it wasn't obviously not that many cars. So you get there, and they break you up into 3 groups. About, what do you think, see, about 12 people per group, something like that?
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, and they pair you up. So Steve and I were paired up. And our first exercise was the autocross with Taycans. So they, unlike the autocross that Damon and I are used to running, this one they used every cone in New Jersey to lay out this course.
San Diego style, I think.
Yes,
right?
yes. I forgot
Very
about
close
that.
together.
You could not get lost as long as you stayed.
You're not picking your own line. You're just trying to stay between the lines.
Exactly. Yep. And here you followed the instructor. So these instructors are all guys who teach at the either the and that used to be called the Sport Driving School, but now it's called the Porsche Track Experience in Birmingham. So they either teach there or they teach at the experience centers in Atlanta or California. And
that's the Barber Motorsports facility, right? The track experience.
The one in the track experience, in Birmingham.
So I had done that, actually, the track experience, and actually Rob and Vu had done this several years ago for a Panorama article. What I remember about those instructors, and I think they were doing it, according to your article, I feel like they have like iguana eyes. One can point straight ahead, and one's like in the rearview mirror. And then, of course, they're one-hand driving with a walkie-talkie in the other hand. Yet they're still faster than you.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's amazing.
Normally, they would drive like when we did the one at Barber, which you did, we were in 991s, Carrera S's, but they were in turbos. So they had a lot more horsepower. But, same way. I'm the last thing I would think about was looking in my mirror going into the brake zone to see 4 or 5 cars behind me, what everyone's doing. But obviously they're top notch and they know what they're doing. So you followed them. You did one autocross run, which was maybe kind of like 2 laps, I think,
2 laps
of this course, and they're just to demonstrate the power of the Cayenne and really how nimble the car is. It's a heavy car, but it doesn't feel like it.
The Taycan.
Yeah, excuse me, the Taycan. Yeah, and I've always wanted to autocross the Taycan. Taycan and Panamera, 2 cars that are fun to drive, and you wonder what it would be like to autocross this. And after seeing Wendy Shoffett 2 years ago at Parade,
she's quick.
Yeah, she took for female top time of day.
Yep, and I think she was 10th overall or somewhere. She was definitely not further back than 20.
No, she was.
She was up there.
She was doing very well with that car, which I predicted she would probably take at least women's top time of day because she's a very good autocrosser.
Yeah,
and she had a Taycan Turbo S, so she had all the. She had all the power. But anyways, after watching her, and I had the opportunity to drive Bob and Cindy's. Bob wanted me to drive his, but some meeting or something was going on, and I couldn't attend the autocross. So
they had that. So I think at the New Jersey Motorsports, they're repaving the Thunderbolt track. So we weren't over there. They held the Taycan track like in the parking lot. So the pictures that we just saw up there earlier, that was from the main Lightning track where they had 2 different groups of the SUVs, the Macan and the Cayennes, separated from the 911s. And then were you going to run through which cars they actually?
So that's the parking lot is actually where the paddock was, where we paddock when we do a driver's ed or a club race at Lightning, and we got done that, and then they told us to go down the pit lane, and they would rotate the groups. So our next exercise was the SUVs. It was the Macan T and the Cayenne S. This is the new Cayenne S with the V8, the twin turbo, and of course the Macan T is still the single turbo 4-cylinder. I guess a little more lighter weight.
They still feel like SUVs, though. I'm guessing, right? You can feel the weight, but
so this is the one that really surprised me. I even told Roxanne, I put in the article that it may have cost me a lot of money because now Roxanne's asking about the Macan as a daily driver for her. Because I told her how impressed I was with it on the track because I drove it first. And sure, it doesn't have the V8 sound or power on the straight, but I would have loved to have timed my laps to see how I did one versus the other because I felt I could carry a lot more speed into the corners and out of the corner than with the Cayenne. Cayenne felt much heavier, which was, I think my article was like 500 pounds maybe.
Yeah, 500 or 600 pounds heavier, I believe.
Yeah, you felt it, which I was surprised that I was going to feel because normally a Cayenne, I bought across Steve's, what year's your Cayenne?
2012.
Yeah, 2012 twin turbo, and it was a blast in the autocross course. It didn't feel heavy, I equate heavy like my Suburban or my Tahoe, which feels like an iceberg with a steering wheel in it. Steve's was a blast to drive, but jumping from the Macan to the Cayenne, you definitely felt the weight.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I definitely felt the difference between our 2012 because it has the PDCC, the chassis control.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I mean, I felt more comfortable when I sat in drove the Cayenne around the track.
Early PDCC.
It was an early one. We've had to replace the lines in it once already, but it's so worth it. I've driven the 911s with PDCC, and in the Cayenne, it makes a world of difference. And we tow with that vehicle too. So without any body roll, when you've got 7,000 pounds behind you, it makes a big difference.
So does PDCC, does it quote unquote digitize the experience, or does it still feel natural and organic the way that it works compared to not having it?
It's hydraulic, so I mean, to me, it still makes the Cayenne feel like a sports car just because it's rotating counter to the way the body wants to roll hydraulically. Yeah. So it just stiffens, it twists the sway bars in the opposite direction, so you don't even feel it at all. There's not even a button in the Cayennes for the PDCC, but that would be an option. If there's one option I think you should choose in a Cayenne, that's it.
PDCC.
Whichever version of the vehicle you choose. Yeah. It's amazing.
So what did you think about the Macan T versus the...
I thought the same thing you did. It's extremely nimble. It feels lighter. The front end felt lighter. Like I could feel the difference between the C2S and the C4S and the 911s, which I think we'll get to. But in the Macan, it in and out of the corners, it felt lighter in the front end, which to me felt like you could carry more speed, even though the horsepower was close to half. Of the Cayenne,
250 something or 60 something, I think.
Yeah, I would have liked to compare a Macan T and a S or GTS. Because I don't think a Macan T buyer is necessarily a Cayenne buyer, because they're really two different tools. Mm-hmm. And Cayenne has its audience it's going after, and obviously the Macan is a different. Again, I get that asked all the time. People ask me, "What should I get, the Macan or the Cayenne?" And there's a whole list of questions you got to ask really to help determine which one they're really looking for. Because, the fact that when we went to the Owings Mills tech event, somebody was asking me, and they had a Macan and a Cayenne on the showroom next to each other. So I opened up the rear doors and I said, well, right here is really evident. If you carry people in the back seat and you want them to be comfortable, and if you're tall, you got to test fit the back seat, because the Macan is much smaller than the Cayenne, which I've never been uncomfortable in the back seat of a Cayenne. Right. It's always something you could do a 3-hour road trip and not think twice of it. With the Macan, maybe if I'm in the front seat, you'll be lucky and you can have a lot of leg room. But if somebody's 6 foot something's in the front seat,
that's when you yell shotgun.
Yeah, exactly. I think when I first sat in the back seat of a Macan, I'm pretty sure in the name of looks, form over function, it's a little bit swoopier, and the top of my head kind of brushes up against the roof a little bit.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a little bit smaller.
I've heard that about the Cayenne coupes.
Probably the same thing with the coupes.
Because
Yeah.
they had a Cayenne coupe at the Owings Mills too, and somebody said about the back seat how it slopes. It's not as much headroom.
We also noticed, for those of us who haven't driven a lot of the new ones, the new spring-loaded gear shift change, which on the SUVs is kind of up on the dash instead of like the 911s.
Yeah,
I think it's down on the console.
Yeah.
But when you put it into drive, it just springs back into location, and then
Yep.
you're in drive. And you can go to reverse if you click it up, but then our natural reaction was click it up and you'll go into park. It doesn't go into park.
There's a lot of people are getting out of the car started to roll.
It starts rolling, and they're like, and of course the instructors, they jumped out of the vehicles very quickly because I think it's happened before. I think
Sure.
there's 3 days for this driving experience that they do. We were day 2, and we were actually after lunch, which they also came in as we were finishing eating and going, well, you guys didn't get quite the best rotation, because if you eat first and then get in these cars and you're a passenger and you get any vertigo or anything, your lunch, please don't do that in our cars.
Yeah, exactly.
So we did those 2 cars, and then they told us we were in the lucky group in the sense that we went from
Of the three for the afternoon.
Yeah, we starting off with the electric, then Macan, then you already know the track, or you're more familiar with it, and then you jump into the 911.
Finish with
your
the
last session.
Yep.
And they had a Carrera S and a Carrera 4S, and of course all 992s are wide body, so it isn't like the old days where the 4S was the wide body and the S was the regular narrow body. And I asked one of the other people, because they were like, I want to drive the rear-wheel drive, and I said, I wonder if you can tell the difference. And he said, oh, yeah, definitely you're going to be able to tell. I'm like, oh, it'll be interesting to see what you think.
That's where we differed.
Yeah, I could not. If you can see in the pictures, if you're watching on YouTube, they're debadged, so they don't say what they are.
Yeah.
And the instructor said, of course, that's not actually the cars we're looking at are in the parking lot. I just looked at the wing, and I thought, wait a minute, none of them had wings on.
Right.
They told us that the one that had the chrome accents on the vertical grills were 4S.
Yeah. That's something that I remember learning way back when the 992. That's a little
Does
detail
that mean
that
you
most people
cannot
don't know.
get the chrome at all on the 2S, or?
I'm not sure. I know that you can have the grill slats, the top of them, the top facing surface painted. As I just got done driving a GTS America Cabriolet that had those painted, on the top area.
That's
I don't know if you can
a
chrome
4S though, right? The Cabriolet, or?
No, it's only rear-wheel drive,
Only
only manual, I think, with the the one that debuted at Poconos.
Yeah, Poconos. Anyways, we jumped in, and
I think the red and the yellow ones were the C2S.
I could not tell the difference. Even weight-wise, I couldn't. It was 100 pounds difference. I think I looked it up, and I think if it was wet, that would have been much more evident with the traction. But on the dry pavement, especially in 2 laps,
Yeah.
So there's Manny. He got to literally walk the entire track before anyone else. Just kidding.
That's a very cinematic photo. If
is.
you're watching, it looks like he's end of the day. He's got his helmet in his hand and he's walking away from the camera.
That was had it been about 10 years since I've driven that track, I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's actually the same track where my son did his first and only driver's ed, and my street car. And the only time my street car has ever done a driver's ed.
Yeah.
Was
Why didn't you do another? Didn't care for it too much?
It was actually his senior project, and he and I mentioned it to him. I said, "Why don't you do performance driving?" And so they told the teacher about it, and the teacher approved it. And I took him up to I think it was Schottenbaum region out of New Jersey was hosting the event, and he did it. And I said, "We can do 2 days or 1 day. You just tell me how you feel." And luckily, he was pretty hooked, because after the first day, I'm like, "You want to come back tomorrow?" He's like, "Yeah, can we?" And I'm like, "Sure, yeah, we'll pay for 2 days if you want to come back day 2. So
Nice.
They try to hit all 7 senses with these events.
Yeah. So wondering about
5
this.
senses.
Do you-
7 senses, 5 senses.
Yeah, well,
No, there's a
do you
sixth
have seven
sense.
senses? 'Cause
Well, there's
I
a
think,
sixth one that Bruce Willis proved to
Right,
us, which is
exactly.
about feeling like you're
Joel
alive.
Osment
Or,
has.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember the Sixth Sense movie?
Six senses, five elements.
But
or
the
whatever.
seventh is movement and balance, vestibular, I think. So there are seven,
Interesting.
truly. Which obviously that one sounds like it's the most important for Porsche driving, right? Balance
yeah.
and movement, your body being able to feel.
Yeah.
All
Hey,
of that.
hey, maybe that's why you could feel the all-wheel drive and Manny couldn't.
I have vestibular.
He has,
Seven
he has a
sense.
better butt than I do. But
Butt dyno. Right. But they fed us well, so we had
Yeah.
the sense of taste. We had everything, maybe except for the smell. There's a new car smell.
Yeah.
But those chassis on those 992s are so well developed
Yeah, they
that
are.
it makes almost anyone look like a good driver.
It's
Obviously,
amazing.
they told us to keep the PSM on the whole time. But, yeah, there was not a whole lot of worry from them about wrecking cars. You know, it was
They said we could play with anything else in the car, change anything. Although when I didn't ever even ask you this, Manny, but I never really, other than moving the seat maybe a little bit forward and back, I never played. A lot of them I think were 18-way seats, so I didn't play with the bolsters or anything.
Yeah.
I probably should have
probably
maybe
need
locked my
time for
body in
all
a little
that.
bit better, but
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't.
I hate those. My Boxster, I don't know. I have one of the older, I guess, 8-way seats, and that's already 6 more ways than I like. I'm used to, like, I love my 914. Tilt back, move up and forward. That's it. There's no.
Set it and forget it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but the
what I have.
Boxster, I have my wife's setting on it, and then I'm too lazy to put in memory my setting. So every time I get in the car, I got to, like, adjust it to the way I like it. And it takes me about 20 minutes on the road, a little bit forward, a little bit back, a little bit tilt.
That's why I like the our Cayenne has the memory. So
Yep.
Joan
Yeah,
gets
it
in,
has-
press
ours has
2,
that too.
I go
I
in,
just
press
haven't,
1, done.
Put it in memory. I like the Sport Bucket, too. That's not much adjustment on those.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
Just
think
get it
you know.
and drive.
Interesting fact about Sport Chrono package that gives you the timer and launch control and all that stuff. Well, launch control if you have PDK. Did you know that Sport Chrono Plus? That's what gives you the extra. I'm pretty sure there's an individual setting if you have Sport Chrono. You know, you can set that, but I believe Sport Chrono Plus gives you more options and more setting slots. So if you wanted to have your settings versus Roxanne's or something, then I believe depending on which key or which setting, it'll remember that. So Sport Chrono Plus, if you want that, that's
I know ours is different keys
yep.
because if I grab the other set of keys, then it has different settings on it. And
Yeah. And Sport Chrono Plus, I believe, goes further. So if you have like the AC at a certain setting and the radio and all that, it'll keep everything the way you want it, but then give you another slot to customize. So fun
Well,
tip.
that's why these events are so fantastic. Get to know your dealer because
Yeah.
they do these all across the United States, and I think this particular one was 3 days where they're bringing the cars there. They set everything up, tents, water. You get a goodie bag, the whole 9 yards. The 2 dealerships that were at this one for this particular day. But it's a great way to drive the new stuff, compare and contrast, kind of look at these features and options that you're talking about. Everybody likes to get on the configurator, and you're like, well, if you don't actually have some real world experience sitting in that car, it's a
Yeah.
little tough to check or uncheck some of those boxes.
yeah, we shared the day with Porsche Mechanicsburg.
Mechanicsburg.
A shout out to them. And of course, Porsche Mills, who invited us. I think Mechanicsburg had a couple of salespeople. It looked
did.
like that were there, and I could hear them answering questions that people had about the cars, and a lot of people were driving like the Taycan for the very first time. So it was interesting to hear the.
This was
Which they were impressed with the. Most people who haven't driven a Taycan are always come away impressed with the power on it.
This is the second time I've actually driven a Taycan in this same manner. And this trip, for me, I'm a very sensual person when I drive the car. So the audio, especially in exhaust, is a big part of the experience of driving these sports cars. And that's one thing when you're watching YouTube and, like the new RS, was that new electric that we just saw? It's, I don't know, it was posted by somebody. It's going around the track, and it's, the all-electric, I forget which one it is.
GT4E Performance, if it's a Porsche.
Yeah, the E.
Yeah, I think
something.
that's what it is.
When
on
you
the
hear
Mission
it,
R.
when you're not in the car and you hear it, it's like, wow, okay, it's an electric car. Is it really going to feel and sound like, the ICE vehicles that we're, used to modifying exhausts on and things like that? When we sat in that car and actually floored it and went around the car, it's more sensual when you're in the car than when you're standing out just listening to it,
Yeah.
So the
From outside.
the e-performance at Rennsport, it was obnoxiously sounding, and what I found out was that was actually the gearbox. It was straight cut gears,
Yeah.
because the Taycan that we heard at New Jersey was very subdued and hardly a sound. And so I had heard this, and it just didn't occur to me because I've heard transmissions with straight cut gears, but
You can't
usually
hear them over the engine.
Yeah, I was going to say usually the engine drowns it out.
Oh, right,
So
yeah.
you rarely hear it. But because obviously there was no engine, only a motor at Rennsport, it was obnoxious, this sound. And then I think it was Johnny Lieberman, I heard on Spikes, he mentioned that it was a straight cut gearbox. And I said,
That's what it
that's
was.
what I was hearing then. I was wondering, why is the motor so much louder on this car? It can't be that well insulated on the Taycan. But yeah, it's... and of course, the Taycans, we didn't get to try it, but they have the audio boost, I think, of the sound.
And the GTS has its own audio noise if you want to use that.
At least the one I test drove, it was not adjustable, and it was very in the background, so it was like hardly any.
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind not having engine sound. It's nice, but like I've worked at a go-karting place for a couple of years out of high school, and those are little 4.5 or later, I think, 9 horsepower karts. 2-stroke, very dirty and all that. Then you go to an electric kart, and I didn't think I was going to like it, but it's actually not bad at all. As long as they're not throttling back your throttle, right? Your
electric
go pedal.
power.
Because you hear tire noise, you hear it's a different noise
It's
that
just
you're hearing than gas.
Yeah, for me at least.
Anyway, that was a great way for us to spend a Thursday.
Wondering if so this is new Porsches. So if somebody isn't looking for a new Porsche, maybe that's out of their financially what they can afford,
Or the timeline they're willing to wait.
Can they attend these? If they're a potential customer for pre-owned, or does Porsche care whether you're a 5 year from now customer
I have
or
a
10?
feeling it's up to the salespeople or
Yeah.
the sales manager, whoever has these invites in their hand and are willing
okay,
to.
I see.
And usually I've gotten them because it's like 3 or 4 days before the event, and they've been sitting on them, and they
They have
still have
extra
them.
spots.
They either gonna
Yeah.
they paid for it a day already,
Yeah.
so they may as well give it to people.
There was one group after us, or it was in the whole other group, where they split them up, and they ended up not having passengers. So each of those drivers got to be in the driver's seat alone, and then swapped from the 4 to the 2, and back and forth. But
Nice.
are you asking whether the dealer could allow, bring pre-owned vehicles
Yeah,
instead of
well,
having the brand new
No,
ones?
I'm asking, for me, I don't think I would be. I'm not in the market to buy a new Porsche. Maybe a pre-owned Porsche, down the road. But is that what these events are meant for?
No,
for people
I don't
to
think so.
Well, I think what Damon's asking. So if you're looking at a Porsche, they want you in that showroom floor.
Yep.
If you're saying, listen, I'm looking at a 2020 911.
Yeah.
Let me know when it comes in, and the guy wants to keep you. He doesn't want you thinking
Yeah.
about a Corvette or
Yeah,
a BMW until we find you a 2020. He may say, hey, if you're not doing anything Thursday, come out to the track and see what the new ones feel like.
Yeah.
Because you never know. If you're looking at a 2020, you may be able to find out financially that you can stretch yourself and get a brand new one.
Yeah.
I mean,
sounds like pre-owned shoppers might qualify for
yeah,
this.
I mean, it's
Sounds
all
like.
like on the event. I also talk about it's creating the relationship. How many times do people, when they get their car serviced, there's a reason why Porsche gives them a loaner, because they're saying, hey, for 3 hours, 4 hours, why don't you drive the new Macan, the new Cayenne, whatever car?
Yep.
And odds are you're going to come back and say, so who can I talk to about finding out more about this car?
Yeah.
It's the best thing, I think, from a sales point of view. So
Yeah.
I would think if you're a serious buyer,
Yep.
even for CPO.
So that's the one qualification. If you're a serious buyer.
Yeah, that's what.
Well, not just that also, but with as much trade-in is occurring now, especially with folks trying to take advantage of the tax differential, trade it in on something newer, those dealerships are all getting the used vehicles, even more so, I think, than, maybe what you're seeing on the auction sites or cars.com or whatever, yeah, they're being advertised. But if you want to be first in line to get that, specific car that you're looking for that might be 2 or 3 years old,
Yeah.
get to know your dealer again, because
Yeah.
they're going to be the ones that get the phone call. Hey, I'm thinking about trading this in.
Yeah.
If you're on that, it's
On
all
the
about
list.
lists, which I guess is probably a good
Yeah.
transition.
Well, actually, so on the Friday after the Thursday, I took the day off, and I changed oil. I have like 30 quarts of used oil sitting in the containers in my driveway. I got to take to the recycling place because I changed a bunch of oil in the cars in our fleet. And what is the secret? And I should know this because I've owned it darn 911s since '08, and taking the damn filter off and not spilling oil everywhere. I've watched people do it, and I've stuck rags in there.
I've seen people drill holes in the bottom of it.
And how do you catch
Yeah.
it, though? Were you putting like some kind of container?
What do you
on
mean,
it?
like, how does it not get all over your drill when you first punch through?
Well, I know you can
Versus
unscrew it to the. I've read about that, but then I still got to figure out how. At least on this, maybe in the older cars, there's a lot more room because there's no air conditioning compressor.
Right.
But and your turbo's got to be worse.
Yeah.
Because you got the
It's
intercooler.
tucked out. For the oil filter?
Well, you got the oil. Yeah, the filter. You're
Oil
still
filter's
on the
back,
side.
kind of like it's screwed into the side, right? For the
Yeah, but I don't have at least an intercooler that I got to worry about on top.
maneuver around. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I'm changing the oil, I'm not messing with the intercooler. But
No, but I'm saying it's in the way though. It's on top of the engine. So how do you get the oil filter off without spilling oil in your car? Since your car is like that's almost a 300-point Concours car.
Well, it's on the passenger side, up underneath in the side of the motor. So there's only a couple brackets and pieces that are in a way that if oil does come down, it's very easy to clean up. So
So there you go. He spills it and then cleans it.
So he does spill it.
spill and clean. I guess it's the old spill and clean.
I haven't looked it
I
up
do
to see.
unscrew it and have a
Yeah.
have a drain and just I'll get a little bit on my glove,
Yeah.
but
All of it never goes into your container. There's always something that spills.
Well, the container, there's no container really because it's your
the bigger splash is the reservoir, not the filter. There's very little, it's a dry sump, so there's not a lot of oil in that
there's
filter.
Yeah,
enough
I
to
guess
make a
so.
mess.
It comes out with a lot of velocity from the reservoir. That's where the weight and the
Okay.
volume is. So that's the one where it just hits.
But that I can,
Yeah.
that I usually take the pan and I get it real close with one hand, and then the initial splash, yeah.
So you did a whole fleet, 30 quarts worth of.
So I did the
changes.
911, 964, then I did my 914, which of course I was impatient. So I drove it for 10 miles, came back, let it sit for maybe a half hour, and that wasn't long enough because I burnt my hands.
It's hot.
I was wearing gloves, but still it was hot as anything, the oil. And it was almost brand new. That's what killed me because I think I only put 800 miles in that car.
Yeah.
I was so ashamed. Then we did the Suburban, and then I think my wife's car. But that was my Friday, was just basically
Sounds like fun.
changing oil since the weather was so nice. And then Saturday, we had Cars and Coffee for a little bit in the morning, and then we went to Porsche Hunt Valley, where they had a very interesting seminar, and it was about buying a new Porsche, which in itself sounds like a boring seminar, but it was actually very eye-opening. Steve Postal, their general manager there, longtime supporter of PCA, was very honest and forthcoming. Wouldn't let anybody record anything. He was, but he's very honest about how the market is right now and about what it takes to basically to get an allocation for a new car, for our new, especially special car. And our tech team brought their cars. Randy Richter, he had his GT4 RS in Etna Blue, and Jim Earlbeck bought his 000 edition Spider, which I think is Albert Blue.
Yeah,
The
that's one of the
cognac
colors.
interior. And then they basically spent like an hour talking about the realities of life when it comes to being able to buy a special Porsche.
So basically, you're going to be waiting a while for that allocation. Whether it's a special car or not, it seems like you're going to
well,
be waiting a bit.
Not so much. Well, if you're on the list, so basically it's you agree, and there's nothing written. There's no contract. It's all gentleman's handshake agreement that you get this. Let's say a Turbo S, and you have when you're ready to sell it, you're going to agree to sell it back to the dealer at either what you paid for it or the current market value, whichever's lower.
Yeah.
So, let's say Jim bought a Turbo S, and he paid, let's say, $200,000 for it, and the market value is $300,000. They'll give him what he paid for it, so he basically gets to drive the car essentially for free for a year.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get to make money off the car.
Gotcha.
That's back to the dealership.
Yep.
And I know that's a reality with a lot of dealers. That's the way. That's why they don't sell to out-of-towners, because they want to
Keep the car in the
create a
family and make money
relationship,
off
yeah.
of it and service it, right?
One of the things I did learn, which I didn't know, was if you pick European delivery, the dealer gets another allocation. Not exactly a car for car. So if you get a GT3, it doesn't mean they get a extra GT3 allocation. But if you get a 911, they may get a Cayenne or a Macan allocation, another car.
Yeah.
Which when they weren't expecting. So that was something I did. That's why I like coming to these tech sessions. You always learn something. And so Randy talked about his European delivery, what he was like. Jim talked about picking up the car in Atlanta. And I always tell people if they're buying a new car, I say you really should do European delivery, or at the very least the Atlanta delivery, because buying a Porsche for a lot of people is a bucket list item, so especially a new one, and just to get the whole experience, I think adds to the memory of it.
It works for us here in the Mid-Atlantic, because you take delivery down in Atlanta and you can still drive sort of all the back roads home and enjoy a wonderful drive.
Drive home in a day, or the back roads in 2.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Or
Depending
3.
on how far west you go.
Yeah.
Well, ideally, you'd make a detour and go to Birmingham, do the
Oh, yeah.
sport driving school in their cars, and then you
Which we figured out back to the New Jersey Motorsport event last Thursday. We figured out that next summer's PCA parade is going to be really close to the Barber Motorsports facility. So, my immediate thought was, 2 weeks instead of 1 week, and go there and do a 2-day event or whatever, and then attend parade, or do it the other way around. And I think is it the Schattenbaum? No, that was New Jersey. One of the regions that's down close to Birmingham, Alabama, is going to do something for their local members.
Yeah, like a DE or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So that's going to be exciting.
Plus the sport driving school, I keep on calling it sport driving school, and that's called track experience. I don't know if you heard the instructor at New Jersey say that they're booked sometimes 2 months in advance. So,
Plan ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to do something, hopefully for PCA members that can go out and spend a day at that track. And Damon's driven that track, so it's a lot of fun.
It's really good.
It doesn't have long straights.
Very curvy, a lot of elevation changes.
Yeah,
It's very nice.
Fun. Really show you what a Porsche can do.
Yeah. Reminded me of Thunder Hill, only with a lot more trees.
I was going to say more grass.
Okay.
more green.
But there was a lot of overlap between that and the buying a new Porsche at the Porsche Hunt Valley, because they talked about those delivery options that you get, or that you can buy when you're buying brand new. And so Jim talked about going down there, or Randy talked about his European delivery of that 4RS that we saw. And I think there was even one member there that got on a list. So I think there's lists for everything now, because with the supply chain being what it is, it's built to order. It's kind of like going out and searching for that used car, right? Where you're going to take some time because you got that one spec or that one, specific year, model, all these things. It's very similar now, I think, with buying a new one, where you have to have some patience and time, and they talked about that. But you get on a list. One of the members there was on a Carrera S list for a 992, and he was on there for close to a year.
I think it was 991 Carrera T.
No, that's what he ended up. Well,
no, he wanted originally a 991 Carrera T, but they said they basically stopped building them, and they said, well, give me a 992 Carrera S.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah. That's how long he
so
was on the list.
He bounced around on lists, which was, I think, the big thing is get on a list, and you may get called for another list. So he ended up with a 992 Carrera T, which wasn't exactly what he was looking for. But
I've driven one of those in anger. Maybe not anger. I was enjoying it a lot. Such a good car.
I would love it. I mean, because we always like base models here at the office.
Yeah. And now the base model is super quick. 379 horsepower.
And it's a little lighter
turbo.
weight, manual. I mean, that's
right?
Like I think cars like that I like, because if you're quicker than them on an autocross on the track. You just do the ultimate rub-in is when you tell someone, and it's a base model.
Exactly. Yep.
You just beat me.
You always have an excuse or a reason to boast. One of the two.
Right.
So
I used to love when I had my my 964 race car, and people would come up and say, "Is that car turbocharged?" And I'd be like, "No, it's 100% stock with 100 and some thousand miles on it."
Yep.
Because there was no secret to the speed.
Yep.
So Sunday, this is like my triple crown because the wife was away at the ocean with 2 of our kids. So I was single for several days. So on Sunday, I did a tour with Chesapeake region. What's called a fall colors tour, where you get to see all the different colors on the leaves as the seasons change. Unfortunately, it was wet for a big part of the drive. And the majority of the people, you can see one lone red, I think it was an 85 or 86 Targa.
G-body.
Everything else was late model. And this poor guy, I told him, I said, "You're the only real man in this group because you were out there with nothing but you have no power steering, no ABS, obviously no PSM, and only 219 horsepower. Everyone else," I said, they should just turn off their PSM so they can feel what you feel. Yeah, because everyone else was. I said to somebody at lunch, I said, "Yeah, PSM is making a lot of people overconfident in their driving ability in the wet." It was. I know I was driving my wife's Boxster S, and just knowing that the PSM is going to save you. Needless to say, you still, especially on wet roads and especially with a lot of leaves, the last thing you want to do is go into the corner and hit some wet leaves, and then you're along for the ride.
Yeah.
So I know next weekend we're doing. It's kind of a part 2. Oh, that
was our youngest participant.
Yeah, if you're looking at that
the
picture.
newest member of the juniors program.
Yeah, they were.
They're,
That was a great car.
Baby not bored.
Baby
The
not
sign
bored
they had in the car.
sign. Yeah, that's fantastic. So I think next weekend there's a repeat, number 2 Fall Colors Tour, the Catoctin Mountain. Yeah. So, yeah.
No lunch to worry about. Aniana told me, so he doesn't have to plan that.
Yeah.
So if your region's doing a Fall Colors Tour and you've never done anything with your region, it's a great, usually a great driving tour, regardless which region it's with. They're all basically the same. You go out there and follow the leader, and you have a blast seeing what your Porsche can do in a safe manner.
Well, all the dealerships across the country, if there's a lot less cars in the parking lot to just go choose from, like there used to be, kind of thing, then get involved with them, because they're gonna be paying for that experience. They're gonna be wanting to hold events, community service type events.
Yeah.
There's a lot you can do that they can really assist with. They have all the new client care specialists. They all want to get involved locally with the Porsche community. So
Yeah.
So Damon wasn't here at our last episode because you were in South Carolina.
South Carolina. Yep.
You drove a whole list of cars, you told me.
Yeah, I drove a lot. So
This is all for 1 mile reviews, right?
yeah, these are all 1 mile reviews. We're just sort of stacking up the reviews for winter at this point, and also because we're weekly now through the end of 2023. And it's funny just because I deleted because I transferred over to the external. So let's see if I can remember all these cars. And these are all owned by Carolinas region members, Alex Galloway and Gail Galloway.
Oh, right.
They've been into the club pretty
Alex
hardcore
is
for a
our,
long time.
big volunteer.
He's been doing it for
Yeah.
like seen forever. Our volunteer coordinator for Parade.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the most unsung jobs
Yes.
at Parade.
Yeah, he handles all of that, and he still finds time to somehow clean his cars the way that
Yes.
he does.
He participates in Concord too.
Exactly.
And does very well.
Exactly. So I got to drive some of those. I'll start off with an 06 Club Coupe and a 2016 Club Coupe. So the Carrera S Club Coupe, and then the GTS. So that's going to be one video. And for those who are not familiar with those cars, the 2006 car was built for Porsche Club of America's 50th anniversary. It's Azzurro California
Blue.
metallic, and it's sort of like a light metallic blue. And this one has a tan interior, beige, whatever you want to call that, leather. And it's a 997.1, first car with the X51 power pack, actually.
Oh, right,
So that
X51.
debuted on the Club Coupe before Carrera S owners could option that out. So that's 381 horsepower. So very cool car. The 2016 model was one of the first 991.1 GTSs, Carrera GTSs, that was available. 2 members first. I don't know if
It's actually at the end of the line.
is at the end of the line.
Because the following year they came out with the twin turbo 3 liters, so at the end
Yeah.
of the flat 6.
Yeah, but the GTS
Production
had to have come
run.
out then because we didn't know about.
So they would come with the GTS at the end of the line.
Yeah.
I just remember because
Because it was 2017 for that. It was 2015 was that one single Club Coupe, and then 2016 for the rest.
Yes. Yep.
So GTS I think came out in 2014 or 2015. So it was still soon after.
I think 2015. All I remember when
Yeah.
I proposed the idea of having a 60th Club Coupe, they said, "What car do you want to base it on?" And I
Yeah.
kept on throwing it back at them and saying, "I don't know what car you're going to have, so you have to
Yeah.
tell me what cars." And this is 3 years prior, and then when they finally were able to, they said, "Well, we think it should be a GTS because we'll have the GTS by then, and this is what the GTS
Yeah.
is going to have," and so on.
Yeah. So it wasn't the first GTS
So
you
was
could buy,
the
but
one
it
you
was
drove
near.
manual or PDK?
It was PDK, so obviously manual only. Wasn't it manual only for the
Yes.
06, or
Yeah.
could you get it Tiptronic?
No, it's just
manual only, and then this one was PDK, optional PDK. It's pretty amazing how much newer 991s feel compared to 997s. You know, when back in 2010 or whatever, when 997s were new, I remember driving those in PDK, and it was just so good, and worlds better than most everything else on the road. Now you can hop into an older car like that, and I call it older now. It's crazy to think of that. And then PDK from back then, it's definitely a little slower, a little more sluggish, not quite as sharp. Still a very quick, good transmission. But yeah, 991s
I
are
can't
just
believe
so...
you used the word sluggish for that transmission.
In comparison,
Comparative
right?
to
Like
it.
you and I drove some PDKs, older PDKs, and newer ones last week as well. So I had a little bit of seat time with that. But yeah, the difference between 997 and 991 is so much bigger than I realized. Both great cars.
Interesting.
I drove. He also just picked up this past year see if I can get this name right. It's a very long name. A 2023 911 Carrera GTS Cabriolet America Edition. I'm pretty
Yes.
sure that's what it is. And so this was actually a car that debuted at Porsche Parade in the Poconos. So that would have been 2022.
And I think by the time it debuted, wasn't it like sold out already, or
I'm not sure, but it
sold
had to
out
have been
within
sold out pretty
days,
quick.
or something like that. It was like midway parade. They were
Yeah.
already telling people there wasn't any available unless
Yeah.
you bought because it was a raffle car.
Yep.
We were giving
Yep.
one
Right.
away, and I remember Michael Tam saying, "Only way you can buy one right now is to buy a raffle ticket."
Yeah, yep. So what that car is, that's it's a tribute to the 52 356 America Roadster, and then the later 92 911 America Roadster, which itself was a tribute to the 356. So it's a similar blue 356 Azure 356 blue is what it's called, I believe. The wheels are white. Well, I shouldn't say that, actually. They're painted white on the insides of the spokes, silver painted on the face, and then with a red pinstripe.
I was gonna say it had like 3 different finishes or paints on it.
Yeah, which you've got to think, if you curb that, you can't curb that
That's-
wheel.
First thing I thought was that's going to be his most expensive wheel to repair,
yeah.
if something happens.
Super expensive, and that's better than expected. So cabriolets, I'm a coupe person, and it's probably because I have some perceived difference between body stiffness or whatever it might be. It's all superficial in one way or another. The new 992s, the cabriolets, and this is a GTS, not an S, it's a Carrera GTS Cabriolet America, with the 7-speed manual. Wow, so fast nowadays. And it's not even, it's 473 horsepower. It's such a tight, sharp feeling car. And I was impressed by how much fun that was to drive. And how far
ruin your
cabriolets
whole
have come
review.
from.
I don't give
Exactly.
everything away.
Yeah, I can't, right? What else? 2015 Cayman base car with PDK, which that was a highlight. I really loved that car. It had factory sport exhaust, so on the base car, which is a little bit unusual. Dealer installed afterwards.
Oh, okay.
I drove a 718 Boxster 25 years edition, which is a 2023 model year, I believe. So that's a Boxster GTS 4.0, but with
The
special
the
neodyne
wheels. Yeah.
The wheel design's different. It's bespoke. There are some cool trim packages and trim details with that. This one was black. It wasn't the silver one.
Oh, I'd like to see that
the
one.
press cars were all silver. And then a 2010 Panamera 4S,
That's Alex's.
which is Alex's
You
and
didn't
Gail's.
wear, you didn't wear jeans, right?
No jeans.
He has what's the linen interior? Is
Yeah,
that
it's
what it is?
linen, and it still looks brand new,
Yeah.
which is kind of
Yeah.
crazy. This is their show car, actually. The Panamera
is.
is their show car. They love showing that, and it is without question. And I don't even have to think twice. This is the nicest Panamera, first-gen Panamera in the
Yachting
world.
blue, I think. Is that
Yachting blue,
Yachting blue.
27,000 miles on
beautiful
it.
car. I mean,
Yeah, and who takes that great care of a Panamera, which is often used as a commuter car, right? So
who concours a car that big? I like my 914 because no back seats,
easy to
and
clean.
everything's tiny. You know, it doesn't take long to clean it. But wow, kudos to Alex. He does an incredible job of.
Yeah.
I think
last
this car
time
must levitate to get to the parade.
I think it might have been this parade, the Ozarks, if I recall. He was at the autocrossing it. Blue tape everywhere and all
Yeah,
that, but
yeah.
still, the
That's
amount of
when-
time they spend volunteering, and at the same time he's prepping.
Yeah.
Early on Sunday and Monday for the Monday Concours.
Crazy man.
I don't think he sleeps.
Yeah, me neither.
I think we were supposed to do this thing 1 mile review at Poconos, wasn't it?
Of
At
the
Poconos?
of the 2010 Panamera 4S, yeah, but a stone
Windshield
or something
crack or
hit the
something, yeah.
windshield and it cracked all the way across. So, we could have driven it, but they didn't want to present the car that way, which
Yeah.
totally understandable.
Right.
So
Cool.
yeah, very cool. I'm probably forgetting. 2019 Targa 4 GTS. I drove one of those as well. So I think 7 reviews in all, 8 cars, 7 reviews. So we got a lot.
Have we ever heard why? And I keep on meaning to ask Michael Tam this is why was the Targa only available on all-wheel drive?
I don't know the answer, the official answer, but if I were to speculate, I'm betting that most people bought them 4-wheel drive.
But I mean, they were only available.
Yeah, well, I mean, in previous years, because you could have Targa 4s. Because couldn't you do the Targa 4 or a regular non-wheel drive Targa in the 997 generation? And then I think it was 4 only for 991. 4 or 4S.
Does that mean if you go back
with
does
the
that mean
restyle of the body, I think they were only available on all-wheel drive.
all-wheel drive?
Yeah.
Does that mean if you go back to the glass top 993?
Yeah, they
wasn't
were
that
available on
considered-
two-wheel.
And that was
Yeah,
a two-wheel, right?
Yeah, but with the change in body style, I don't know why. It always occurs to me whenever I see one as to why they. You would think of any kind of convertible like that wouldn't be a preferable all-weather type of car.
Yeah, I'm
the
sort of
ceiling on
searching up right
The
here,
new
but
cars are so good.
Yeah, I think actually the 997s might have actually all been all-wheel drive Targas as well.
Really?
Let's see real quick.
But
Interesting.
Yeah, so they must have switched. Yeah, at some point.
and we have some videos that have come out in the past week. We had just came out. I think Wednesday was the driving the 993 Supercharged from the Turbo Performance Center. We did this, I think, back in the spring.
Yeah, it was back in May, I believe.
Yeah, it
Or
was
June. It was June.
Yeah, I got to. Boo did it on the video, but I got to drive it for some B-roll, and I was pretty impressed with it.
Are these roof rims?
No, I believe they're HRE.
Yeah.
HREs?
I think 19s.
It's a very drivable
there you
car.
go.
It isn't.
HREs.
It could easily daily this car. It wasn't something where only felt good at high speed or high RPM.
Eaton Roots style supercharger. So,
Oh, okay.
like the ones you find in American muscle
Yeah,
cars.
right.
And it
Clean
makes the same
install.
noise too.
Yeah, it's you definitely hear it.
Got rid of the
Clean
airbag
install.
too with that steering wheel.
Yeah, it looks like it. So it's a 97, and
And this one
those
had what I call active suspension because you could
DSC Sport.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is what got our attention originally about the car, that it had the supercharger and the active suspension on it. So that came out. You can check it out on YouTube. Of course, Damon's review of the Museum 993 Turbo
Yeah.
S.
Yep, that was in Germany on a trip back in September. So this will be 2 out of the 4 cars I did reviews
Look
for.
at that.
I would love to interview the guy at the museum who has to clean these up after the press is done with them.
Yeah, they had at least 3, I think 4 waves of journalists
Yeah, that's what I
over
mean.
from all different
And
countries.
I was looking at the interior of the car in the video.
Yeah.
It is so exclusive out with all those options on it. That
Those were
interior-
standard on the Turbo S.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it still had to go for exclusive though.
Yeah. They
all
were
the
options on
knobs
other
are all
cars.
covered. It
Yeah.
was very impressive.
Yeah, it reminded me of how far, like, Porsche exclusive has been doing this for a while. This is, I mean, you hear about the push with exclusive and all their special edition cars nowadays, and they follow a plan. You know, back then, you know, they just needed money, and exclusive, I think, was making special editions to try and sell the cars for more money. Maybe
Yeah,
the
especially-
993 was a little bit, they were recovering a little bit.
This
by
is the
then.
end of the road for the 993 too.
Yeah.
So they didn't make, you know, I think the Sport Classic, they made over 1,963, I think it is. This car, this Turbo S 993, they made 345, I believe.
Right. Yeah.
And so much rare.
Swan song at the end of
Yeah.
the run.
I remember the year this came out, that following February, somebody showed up at Sebring for a club race with this. He had stripped the interior out, put a roll cage.
Wow.
And of course, like Damon articulates in the video, they're easy to spot because of the intake on the sides, on the rear quarter panels. And we were just blown away, not thinking, my God, this car's going to be worth so much money. How can you do this? It was just like, wow, it must be really cool to be able to buy a new turbo and just strip it out and turn it into a race car.
Yeah.
All reversible, I'm sure. But
Well, you know
I
how
don't know
much
about
that
that
Turbo
cage.
S
I
cost
didn't
back
see
then?
the
It,
intake.
it was only $150,000 in 1998.
Yeah. Only.
Which that barely gets you into a mid-option Carrera S nowadays, I feel like. Right?
Yeah.
So rewind that time
Exactly.
clock.
I have to remind everyone about our newsletters to subscribe to. I'm sure, Robert, there we go. E-Brake News, Mark Fresh News, and Performance for the four-door crowd. Free to subscribe, and you get all the latest articles we write about these different models. And, of course, we had Tech Tactics Live. That's up on YouTube as well. We had Deciphering Porsche Pricing when Mike Maurer, who was very popular on the Confessions of a Porsche Salesman, came back. And he answered more questions and talked more about what it takes to buy a new Porsche and how the pricing structure works, how they set pricing, and how the dealer operates. It was very
Very informative.
very enlightening. And if you're even if you're not looking for a new Porsche, you just want to understand how it all works. It's a good listen to. And Mike is a gentleman and very easy to understand, and he spells it out and is very honest.
He's got quite the resume.
Exactly.
From where
30 years in Porsche sales from
Oh,
Brumos,
yeah. Brumos and
moving up here
going
to
back
Northern
to-
Virginia. All right, let's go to news.
So I think I see Google. Porsche is going to be using Google, not VW's in-house
Oh, my God.
software. Man, they are just having so much trouble with this, moving into the digital age.
Maybe,
Software is everything.
granted, I have never had a new Porsche, and I even when I get press cars, I don't use their navigation. I just look for CarPlay, and I hook up my Apple, and I run my ways. Even in Germany, I did this. I don't know about you guys, if you guys use their actual navigation.
I don't use that, but with new Porsches at least, everything, not everything, but a lot is controlled through the screens. So if you want to control your shock settings, and,
Yeah, that I understand.
yeah.
But everyone seems to complain about the PCCM to one degree or another.
Yeah.
About
I like
when,
Porsche screens. They do it pretty well.
I think
compared
when
to
they're
some
brand
other
new,
stuff.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
And when we've had very new vehicles, we used it, but then after a couple of years, you only get so many upgrades. Then at that point, you start switching over to your phone with Waze or whatever
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
So, and that's if you're holding on to the vehicles. We like to own and drive and
Yeah.
keep.
Yeah.
But I there was a lot of discussion on whether this is a good move to go to Google and whether it'll enhance the user experience in the car.
Yeah.
I think people with Android phones are very happy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens as long as they don't take away Apple CarPlay.
I doubt they will. Porsche knows most of their buyers or the majority are Apple phone owners.
We will.
Is that true?
We will double check
Yeah.
on rental cars because back when only like half of them had Apple CarPlay.
Yeah.
Many a time, Boo and I switched rental cars in the lot when we realized the one we picked didn't have Apple CarPlay. We would just say because it took forever to try to interpret like Microsoft Sync. That
Yeah, I
was
remember
so
that.
hard to get it to work with
Get it to
your
work,
with
right.
your phone. And of course, speaking of software, Porsche or VW also had to announce that they're struggling with software issues. They had to do some layoffs, which in reading the article wasn't a huge surprise. I think it's just another hiccup on the way to electroconnectivity, I guess.
Yeah, there were problems. I think people were not very happy with. Well, one thing, if you've driven, the new, well, not new anymore, the Golf and GTI, and I've driven a Golf. They don't sell those here anymore, but they sell. I drove one in England, and everything is on a screen. There are no buttons, and they're actually reverting back to add more buttons back into their interiors because people hated it so much. So VW has learned its ways, but then of course, everyone wants to move away from CarPlay or Google because they don't want to have to pay the licensing fees, I'm sure, and they want their own. They want the data for themselves that they collect on the people who drive their cars. But if you can't get your software to work, and now you're VW cutting 2,000 jobs, will they ever get there, or is it just going to be CarPlay until the end, or Google Android?
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
moves.
it seems as though the Macan EV is struggling to come out, and everyone asked me about it. When it's coming out. At least we know that Porsche is going to be selling the gas version alongside the EV, so it won't be the only choice. The new 911. I don't know if you saw this or not. The GTS, those front slats. Something tells me that's not going to make it to production, or it's going to be hidden behind something.
Active.
So-
those are active.
That's all
arrow,
that
right?
active arrow, but usually that's hidden from some horizontal slats.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say the cars already have active slats, but they don't look
Not
like
that,
that.
not like that.
Not like that.
Yeah.
Where they're hidden behind, and you don't really not as pronounced as that. Of course, this is
Maybe they come out. Maybe they come forward and come out and really draw there. That would slow it down. That's a bad idea.
Or
Steve.
poke the car in front of you, right?
but that's supposedly the hybrid
Pretty
version.
aggressive.
They're saying, at least according to the spy photographers. So everyone also, I get a lot of calls here at the National Office asking about what do we know about the second gen 992? When's that coming out? And by all counts, it's 2025. It's going to be the second gen, and it's going to be a hybrid. So it'll be interesting to see more and more. I know from the spy shots they tell people if it makes it to the Nürburgring, odds are this is close to coming out when they're doing the testing there.
Yeah.
And they can get good performance numbers
Right.
from the spy photographers who are clocking every lap and reporting back on what they're seeing and hearing. So I'm pretty excited. I was really hoping we would have seen this prototype at Rennsport or something, but unfortunately that was my letdown
It's
about
too
Rennsport.
far-
We
too
never
far
got
out.
to see
Or the EVs at least, but not
it's,
those either.
Not much at all. And the last shot is the Taycan. That's also getting a facelift.
Yeah, so the headline here says, see if you can spot the updates. And
I can see the front bumper looks different.
yeah, the
in
front
corners.
corner
Yeah.
above, and looks like there's this indentation in front of a hole, which is probably for braking.
Yeah, the wheels still look like the old style Mission E wheels.
Knee, right?
Yeah, but front fascia is a little bit different. I don't know about the rear.
Headlights, mirrors. Mirrors look similar.
The rear even looks very similar.
Yeah. Well,
That looks like air.
it's one
Is
thing
it
I
an
love about
update?
Porsche is their evolution is so gradual. I did this article about the 981,
Yeah.
and like Don posted some stuff on Instagram, and he sent photos, and it is so hard to tell the difference between a 91 and 718, especially from the front.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the rear, I let one slip by because the rear has a different reflector at the bottom, which is an easy tell. But wow, in the front, it was very hard to tell.
Yeah. You know what I am seeing here in
difference.
the rear of this spy car is that they've added what looks like vents,
I see them too.
which the old car or
gotta
current
be,
car doesn't have.
It's got to be rear fender well turbulence. To
Perhaps it looks uglier to me.
Or maybe it's just something they're putting in there, but it's not going to make the production.
It could be.
Yeah, we'll
I
see.
mean, it's all about aero now.
Yeah,
so
let us know if you see what you like.
evacuate, if you can evacuate that turbulence in the wheel wells, you're going to get better gas mileage. You're going to get everything.
Yep.
And we're reaching the top of the hour, a little bit over right now. Events coming up. So Unstock, which is on Sunday, November 12th, is sold out right now. If you want to register, get on the wait list. Just send us an email because registration is closed. I think we have something like 170 cars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're going to be parking inside and outside. They have a huge lot, and we're making use of the entire lot. More importantly, I looked at the food truck list that Melanie had, and it is the biggest, bigger than we have for Horse Reunion. There was like 8 or 9 food trucks coming.
Oh, wow.
I told Melanie, I said, I'm not going to eat for 48 hours prior to the show, just so I can sample something from every food truck. It should be a blast. I think, San Diego region is really coming out big time to help support this event. And I think the attendance is higher than we had last year. Last year we were very limited because we had that one street and that was it. Mm-hmm. They had to close the street and we had to fit everything on the street and a little bit inside. But this time, it's because it's an industrial park. We have a lot of room to lay out the cars.
Yeah.
So
you get a lot of submissions of quote unquote modified cars that are only really slightly modified. But
the funny ones are the ones that modify their car to look like another stock car. So it's like kind of like taking a Cayman and making it look like a GT4.
Right.
So yes, they do qualify.
It's modified
because it is more than three mods, but you made it look like another
stock
car. Or making it look like a stock 3.2 Carrera, and they have a
SE.
like a 74 or something. You put flares on it. So, but it's all under our requirements. And it's not a Concours or anything. It's just to come out and hang out. So we actually let in cars that have Subaru engines.
Yep.
Whereas Megan, our receptionist, she made a face. She says, who would put a Subaru engine in a Porsche? And I said, actually, it's pretty popular with 914s. Yeah. I think a couple of 912Es might have it on there coming to the show. And there's a couple electric conversions. And I think maybe 1 or 2 LS conversions are coming. But that's the whole spirit of this event is modified cars. So.
Yeah. And if you didn't register, you don't have to just to come enjoy and spectate and enjoy the show.
Yep. Walk around.
Just show up. Mm-hmm. And we have corral parking, first come, first serve. So it'll be Porsche only parking.
Nice.
But there's a ton of parking around HRE because it's a business park and it's
a Sunday.
Not operating on a Sunday exactly. Yep. And so there's plenty of, and we'll have golf carts with volunteers. If you have to park a little bit further away, people will be patrolling the streets and giving you a ride to HRE. But it's probably the easiest as far as parking of any of our events. But those who have come to Unstocks know that we have these golf carts as a convenience to people. If they don't want to walk from where they park their car to the show, we'll pick them up and give them an express ride in. Anything else, guys?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. I want to thank Steve for being a first time
and joining us.
Steve ascending to the presidency a few weeks ago. I told him, I said, you did it right, my friend. You're only president for 2 months, but now anytime they say past presidents, please stand up, he can stand up and say he was a president. They have to, and only serve too. Very smart. Gets the whole pension plan for past presidents.
There we go. Oh, I'm envious.
Secret Service and all that any past president gets. All right. So next week, hopefully, Vu will be back, and we'll have even more to talk about from SEMA. Until then, let me read the closing sign-off. If you aren't a current PCA member and you own a Porsche, what are you waiting for? Be sure to have your VIN handy, and for those who don't currently own a Porsche, check out our test drive program. Just go to www.pca.org, and you can become a member. Only $46 a year. What a deal. Get a beautiful magazine monthly, printed magazine in the mail. And remember to follow the podcast Instagram page to see behind-the-scenes photos and videos. Porsche Club Insider, all in one word on Instagram. Or you can send us a message or email us at podcast@pca.org, or just simply comment on our YouTube podcast videos, which we monitor all the time. If you want to stay in touch with all things PCA, remember to subscribe to the free newsletters at pca.org/newsletters. Until then, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the road.